How I reprogrammed my subconscious mind with positive thinking. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how much you try to think positively, life still pulls you back into old patterns? Fear, doubt, and limitation? I used to live that cycle too. I'd read every self-help book, repeat affirmations, visualize success, yet something deep inside me refused to change. Until one day, I understood the truth. The subconscious mind was running the show. And unless I reprogrammed it, all my positive thoughts were just surface noise. This video is not about theory, it's about transformation. I'm going to share exactly how I reprogrammed my subconscious mind using positive thinking, the real process that shifted my energy, my mindset, and my results in less than 90 days. No fluff, no fake promises, just what works. So, if you've ever felt like something invisible keeps sabotaging your growth, stay until the end. Because once you truly understand how your subconscious operates, you'll never think the same way again. Topic 1. The moment I realized. My mind was working against me. I remember waking up one morning staring at the ceiling and feeling that heavy, quiet frustration. Why does life feel like a loop? I'd done everything right. Read the books, set the goals, visualized success, yet the results were inconsistent. I'd climb a bit, then fall back. It was like driving with one foot on the accelerator and the other on the brake. Then it hit me. It wasn't life that was repeating itself. It was me. My subconscious mind, filled with years of programming, was replaying the same patterns over and over again. Childhood beliefs, social conditioning, emotional memories, all working silently beneath my awareness. I had spent years trying to think my way to success with the conscious mind, but the subconscious was the real driver of my behavior. That realization was humbling and liberating. Because once I accepted that my outer world was just a mirror of my inner programming, I stopped fighting circumstances and started working on the real cause, my inner state. Positive thinking suddenly wasn't about forcing happy thoughts. It became about retraining the emotional tone of my mind. I began to observe how my inner dialogue shaped my energy. Every time I thought, "This won't work," or "I'm not lucky," my body reacted. Tension in the chest, shallow breathing, a drop in motivation. Those sensations were physical proof of mental conditioning. The subconscious doesn't speak in words, it speaks in emotions, repetition, and imagery. And once I saw that connection, I knew the battle wasn't outside, it was within. It's crazy, isn't it? We spend so much time trying to change our jobs, partners, or habits, but almost no time reprogramming the silent script running in our heads. I realized that my subconscious was like a garden, filled with weeds of doubt and scarcity that had been planted long before I was even aware of them. Positive thinking was the sunlight I needed, but first I had to pull out the weeds. So, I made a decision. From that day forward, my mind would no longer be my enemy. Every thought, every reaction, every emotional pattern would become data. Feedback showing me what still needed reprogramming. I started noticing how my mind resisted new beliefs. When I told myself, "I am successful," an inner voice whispered, "No, you're not." That was the subconscious rejecting the new code. Instead of ignoring it, I leaned in. I'd breathe deeply and say, "I see you, old program, but I'm writing a new story now." And little by little, those inner voices started to lose power. I wasn't fighting them anymore. I was retraining them. Positive thinking, I discovered, isn't naive optimism. It's mental discipline. It's the art of consciously choosing the higher frequency over and over until it becomes your natural vibration. When I caught myself expecting failure, I'd ask, "What if it goes right this time?" When I felt anxious about money, I'd remind myself, "There's always more where that came from." At first, it felt fake, but then something subtle shifted. My nervous system began to relax. My energy started to flow differently. Opportunities began to appear that matched my new vibration. Because when your subconscious mind finally aligns with your conscious desire, the universe mirrors that harmony in ways that feel almost magical. I realized that positive thinking wasn't about pretending life is perfect. It was about aligning my thoughts with my potential, not my past. Every time I chose a higher thought, I was sending a new signal into my subconscious, saying, "This is who I am now." That's when everything began to change. I stopped identifying as the victim of circumstance and started identifying as the creator of experience. My conversations changed, my posture changed, even my facial expressions softened. It was like my whole being was learning a new emotional language, one of possibility, gratitude, and calm confidence. And here's what shocked me most. Once the subconscious began to believe in abundance, life started delivering proof. Unexpected opportunities appeared. I'd meet people who mirrored my new frequency. Things I used to chase started flowing naturally toward me. That's when I knew reprogramming your mind through positive thinking isn't magic, it's science. It's the way your brain's neuroplasticity responds to repeated focus and emotional reinforcement. The subconscious doesn't resist love, it just needs consistency. So, if you're stuck in patterns that don't serve you, remember this: your mind isn't broken, it's just trained. And anything trained can be retrained. Once I understood that, everything I thought I knew about success, manifestation, and prosperity expanded beyond what I ever imagined possible. That was the beginning of my real transformation. And from there, I dove deeper into how to consciously reprogram my subconscious mind every single day. Topic 2. How positive thinking became the language. My subconscious understood. At first, I didn't realize that positive thinking wasn't just about what I said. It was about what I felt, what I imagined, and what I consistently rehearsed in my inner world. I used to repeat affirmations like a robot. I am confident, I am wealthy, I am enough. But deep down, a part of me didn't believe it. My subconscious didn't speak English. It spoke emotion, repetition, and imagery. That's the language of the subconscious mind. So, the real question became, how do I make my subconscious understand my positive thoughts? That's when I discovered something powerful. The subconscious doesn't respond to words. It responds to the emotional frequency behind them. If I said, I am abundant, but felt fear or doubt while saying it, my subconscious would record the emotion, not the sentence. It would absorb the vibration of fear, not the idea of abundance. That realization changed everything. I began to shift my focus from repeating to feeling. Instead of saying affirmations mechanically, I started visualizing them vividly. When I said, I am prosperous, I imagined walking through a beautiful home, smelling fresh coffee, hearing laughter, feeling gratitude. I tried to make my subconscious believe it was happening right now. That's when my affirmations began to feel real, and when they started to work. Because here's what no one tells you. Positive thinking only works when your subconscious feels safe enough to believe it. If your internal dialogue is full of anxiety or self-criticism, your mind won't accept positive ideas. It will reject them as foreign. That's why I stopped trying to convince myself and started teaching myself, calmly, patiently, and consistently. Every morning, before checking my phone or diving into work, I'd spend a few quiet minutes breathing deeply and repeating a single thought. Everything is always working out for me. At first, it felt like a lie, but I didn't fight it. I just breathed through the resistance. I allowed my nervous system to relax. After a few days, something clicked. My mind began to associate that sentence with calm, not tension. My body softened. My breath deepened. The words began to feel true. That's how I learned that positive thinking becomes powerful when it's embodied, when it's not just mental, but physical. The subconscious mind listens to the body. If your shoulders are tight and your jaw is clenched while you're saying, I'm at peace, your subconscious believes the tension, not the words. So I began aligning my body with the emotion I wanted to create. When I affirmed abundance, I'd smile. When I visualized success, I'd sit tall, chest open, breathing with confidence. When I practiced gratitude, I'd place my hand over my heart and feel the warmth there. Every movement became a signal to my subconscious. This is who I am now. That's when I realized that positive thinking isn't about forcing positivity. It's about choosing alignment. It's not pretending everything is perfect. It's deciding that no matter what's happening, your response will come from a place of power, not fear. The more I practiced this, the more automatic it became. Slowly, the inner voice that used to criticize started to encourage. The voice that used to say, you can't, began whispering, you can. And that shift, that subtle internal reprogramming, started to reflect everywhere in my life. I noticed I was speaking differently to people. I became less reactive, more grounded. Even when things went wrong, I could see them as opportunities instead of obstacles. My energy was no longer chaotic. It was centered. Here's what really amazed me. My outer world started echoing my new inner language. I began attracting experiences that matched my new vibration. Emails from unexpected clients, random compliments, synchronicities that seemed too perfect to be coincidence. It was as if life had been waiting for me to change the station I was broadcasting on. I finally understood that the subconscious mind is like a loyal assistant. It takes orders without judgment. If you constantly feed it thoughts of struggle, it will create more struggle. If you feed it thoughts of abundance, it will find ways to make abundance your reality. It doesn't care whether you say, "I can" or "I can't." It just says, "as you wish." So I started being more intentional about my internal conversations. I became the gatekeeper of my mind. Any thought that didn't align with success, peace, and prosperity was no longer welcome. Not because I wanted to suppress negativity, but because I realized thoughts are instructions, and my subconscious was always listening. When I'd catch myself thinking, "I'm not ready," I'd pause and ask, "Who taught me that?" Often, I realized those thoughts weren't even mine. They were echoes of teachers, parents, or experiences from years ago. But I didn't need to carry them anymore. I could release them and write new mental scripts. Positive thinking became my daily dialogue with my subconscious, a new language I was teaching it through repetition and feeling. I noticed patterns shifting effortlessly. I didn't have to force motivation anymore. I felt motivated. I didn't have to fake confidence. I embodied it. I wasn't chasing success. I was becoming someone who naturally attracted it. Because the subconscious doesn't make things happen through effort. It makes them happen through belief. Once it accepts a new identity, that you're confident, prosperous, and worthy, it starts filtering reality through that lens. You begin to notice opportunities that were always there but invisible before. You become magnetic to what aligns with your new self-concept. There was one powerful moment when I truly saw the change. I faced a challenge that, in the past, would have made me spiral into worry. But this time, something inside me stayed calm. My old reactions didn't show up. Instead, a quiet certainty said, "You've got this. Everything is unfolding perfectly." That was the proof. My subconscious had learned the language. It no longer spoke fear, it spoke faith. It no longer reacted, it trusted. That's when I realized positive thinking isn't just a mental exercise, it's a neurological retraining process. With every repetition of gratitude, every visualization, every choice to think higher, you're strengthening new neural pathways. You're literally rewiring your brain for abundance and resilience. So yes, positive thinking works. But not because it's magical. It works because it reconditions your subconscious mind to expect the best, to feel worthy, and to magnetize opportunities that match your new frequency. That's the true power behind it. Not wishful thinking, but conscious, emotional alignment with the version of yourself that already exists within you. The one who's confident, peaceful, and prosperous beyond measure. When you learn to think positively in the language your subconscious understands, you're not escaping reality, you're creating it. Topic 3. The daily mental rituals that started reprogramming my reality. When I finally understood that my subconscious mind was silently shaping every part of my life, I realized I needed to train it, not just once in a while, but every single day. The change I wanted wouldn't come from one big revelation or a motivational video. It would come from consistency, from the daily rituals that would gradually rewrite the language of my subconscious. I stopped thinking of positive thinking as an idea and started treating it like a practice. Every day became a chance to remind my mind, this is who I am now. My mornings became sacred. Before touching my phone or looking at the world, I looked within. I'd sit up in bed, take 3 deep breaths, and tell myself, today, I choose to think in alignment with success and abundance. Those words weren't just affirmations. They were a command. I was telling my subconscious how to behave, how to see, and how to respond. Then came visualization. For about 10 minutes, I would close my eyes and see the life I wanted, not as something distant, but as something I was already living. I imagined it so vividly that it started to feel like memory, not fantasy. I'd feel the gratitude, the calm, the excitement. I'd picture myself speaking with confidence, walking with purpose, and living with ease. That's when I discovered something profound. The subconscious doesn't know the difference between imagination and reality. If you can feel it deeply enough, it becomes real in your nervous system. Visualization isn't pretending, it's training. It's how you teach your brain what normal should look and feel like. After my visualization, I did something I call mental hygiene. Just like brushing your teeth removes plaque, mental hygiene removes mental clutter. Throughout the day, whenever I caught myself thinking, "You're not ready," or "You can't handle that," I would pause and replace it with a better thought. "I've got this. I'm growing stronger every day." At first, this felt awkward, even fake. But over time, my mind began to accept these new statements as truth. Slowly, the tone of my inner voice began to change. The same mind that once doubted everything started to encourage me. That's when I knew the reprogramming had begun. During the day, I trained myself to observe my thoughts in real time. Instead of reacting impulsively, I'd stop and ask, "What story am I telling myself right now?" If the story was negative or limiting, I'd rewrite it immediately. That small pause, that moment of awareness, was one of the most powerful rituals of all. When challenges came up, I practiced what I called pause, breathe, reframe. One deep breath, one new perspective. Instead of, "Why is this happening to me?" I asked, "How is this happening for me?" That simple reframe turned problems into teachers. At night, before going to sleep, I'd review the day in my mind. But instead of focusing on what went wrong, I replayed what went right. I would recall every moment that made me smile, every act of kindness, every spark of gratitude. This nightly ritual rewired my brain to look for blessings instead of burdens. And as I drifted to sleep, my subconscious would spend the night reinforcing those positive emotions. I also changed how I spoke about myself. I stopped saying things like, "I'm unlucky," or "That always happens to me." Words carry energy, and the subconscious records every word you repeat. So I started speaking in alignment with the reality I wanted: calm, confident, capable. One of the most transformative rituals was what I called the mirror dialogue. Every morning, I'd look into my own eyes and talk to myself with compassion and certainty. I'd say, "You're doing great. You're learning. You're stronger than you think." At first, it felt silly, even uncomfortable. But with repetition, it became real. The person staring back started to look like someone I believed in. That ritual rebuilt my self-image. Because the subconscious doesn't just store your thoughts, it stores your identity. And identity dictates behavior. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll keep struggling. But if you see yourself as someone who succeeds, your subconscious will do everything to make that identity true. I also began writing as if my dreams had already happened. I'd take a notebook and script sentences like, "I'm so grateful that my life is filled with peace, abundance, and purpose." Writing in the present tense made my subconscious feel it was already real. It started acting accordingly. Science supports this. Neuroscientists call it neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself through repetition and emotion. Every positive thought, every visualization, every word of gratitude strengthens new neural pathways. Over time, those pathways become highways. The mind starts defaulting to confidence instead of fear. And soon, the outer world began to reflect my inner rituals. I started attracting opportunities that matched my new frequency. Conversations felt easier, solutions appeared faster, and even the challenges seemed purposeful. Life began responding to the version of me that I was training my subconscious to believe in. That's when I realized the truth. You don't attract what you want. You attract who you are. My daily rituals weren't about forcing success. They were about becoming the kind of person for whom success is natural. Every breath, every visualization, every word of gratitude became part of that transformation. It wasn't a routine anymore. It was a way of living. And day by day, my subconscious began to align with my higher vision. Because the subconscious mind doesn't change overnight. It changes through gentle repetition, through conscious awareness, through daily decisions that say again and again, "This is who I am now." That's how I started reprogramming my reality. One morning breath, one grateful thought, one elevated choice at a time. Topic 4. When Science Meets Spirit, the neuroscience of subconscious reprogramming. For most of my life, I thought science and spirituality lived on opposite ends of the spectrum. One dealt with facts and data, the other with faith and belief. But when I started reprogramming my subconscious mind, something extraordinary happened. The two began to merge. Every spiritual truth I was discovering had a scientific mirror. Every mystical concept about energy and vibration had a neurological explanation. And it all started with one question that kept echoing in my mind. What if the universe I'm trying to change outside is actually being projected from inside my brain? The more I studied the subconscious, the clearer it became. The mind is not just a container of thoughts. It's a biological feedback system constantly creating patterns, filtering perceptions, and shaping what we call reality. The brain is the bridge between science and spirit, the interface between energy and matter. Neuroscience calls this process neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. That means every time you think a thought, visualize a goal, or repeat an affirmation, you're not just being positive, you're literally rewiring your neural architecture. Your brain begins to carve new pathways of possibility. When I first learned that, I understood why repetition and emotion were so powerful. The subconscious doesn't learn through logic, it learns through feeling and repetition. So when you pair a new thought, like "I am abundant," with genuine emotion and repeat it consistently, you're not hoping the universe will respond. You're reprogramming your internal universe first. Think of your brain like a forest. Each thought is a trail. The more often you walk that trail, the clearer it becomes. Old trails of fear, doubt, and limitation start to grow over when they're no longer used. Meanwhile, new trails of faith, confidence, and abundance begin to take shape until they become your natural pathways. That's the science of reprogramming your subconscious. Neurons that fire together, wire together. Every positive emotion, every moment of gratitude, every visualization strengthens the circuit of who you're becoming. You're sculpting your own consciousness, one thought at a time. And here's the part that feels almost magical. When these new neural patterns stabilize, your perception of reality changes. The brain begins to filter information differently. You start noticing opportunities that were invisible before. People, situations, and ideas that match your new vibration begin to appear. What you once called coincidence now feels like synchronicity. And science agrees that your brain literally starts tuning into different frequencies of awareness. I remember reading about the reticular activating system, a small network of neurons in the brainstem that acts like a filter for attention. Whatever you focus on repeatedly, your brain begins to highlight in the external world. So, if you constantly focus on lack, your subconscious will spot every sign of scarcity. But if you train it to expect abundance, it will start finding proof of prosperity everywhere. It's not magic, it's selective perception guided by belief. That's when I understood why positive thinking works so powerfully. It changes what your brain allows you to see. Your subconscious becomes the lens through which you perceive life. Shift the lens, and the whole world looks different. But there's another layer that goes even deeper: the energetic field. Every thought and emotion you produce generates measurable electromagnetic waves. The heart and brain communicate constantly through this field, influencing not only your biology, but also your environment. That's why when your subconscious finally believes in abundance, your entire energy field starts broadcasting that frequency. People feel it, circumstances respond to it, and life begins to synchronize with it. Science is now catching up with what ancient wisdom has known for centuries. Your thoughts are not confined to your head. They influence your body, your relationships, and even the events that unfold around you. Quantum physics calls it the observer effect, the idea that the very act of observation influences reality. In other words, your attention is creative. When I began to understand this, I stopped trying to manifest from desperation. I started working from alignment. I realized that my brain and my energy field were in constant conversation, and the subconscious was the translator. If I thought positively but felt fearful, the message got distorted. But when my thoughts and emotions aligned, everything clicked. That's why gratitude became my most powerful neurological tool. Neuroscientists have discovered that when you feel genuine gratitude, your brain releases dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals of happiness and focus. Over time, gratitude literally trains the brain to expect more good things. Spiritually, we call that the law of attraction. Scientifically, it's the law of neurochemistry. It's fascinating how both perspectives point to the same truth. Your internal state creates your external experience. When you think high-frequency thoughts and embody high-frequency emotions, you're not just thinking positive. You're teaching your nervous system a new reality. That's why I started blending science and spirituality in my rituals. I'd meditate not just to calm my mind, but to rewire my brainwaves. I'd visualize not just to dream, but to strengthen new neural circuits. I'd express gratitude not as a nice habit, but as a deliberate neurochemical upgrade. My spiritual practices became scientific experiments, and my results became data. And the data was undeniable. I noticed my stress levels dropping, my intuition sharpening, my creativity expanding. Life began to flow instead of resist. Because when you align the spiritual intention with the scientific process, the subconscious receives a crystal clear message. This is real. This is safe. This is who I am now. That's when you stop forcing success and start flowing with it. Because the brain, once rewired, doesn't fight new patterns. It sustains them. The spirit, once aligned, doesn't chase outcomes. It attracts them. And together, they create a field of coherence where prosperity, peace, and purpose naturally unfold. That's the true harmony of science and spirit. The brain provides the structure. The soul provides the spark. The subconscious mind is the bridge, translating invisible thoughts into visible results. When you understand that, you realize reprogramming your subconscious isn't mystical or mechanical, it's both. It's the meeting point between biology and belief, between neurons and intention, between quantum energy and conscious choice. And once you experience that alignment, you stop asking, does it really work? Because you can feel it, not as theory, but as truth, vibrating through every cell of your being. Topic 5. Breaking old mental patterns. How I unlearned scarcity thinking. I used to think that the hardest part of changing my life would be learning new habits or new strategies. But I was wrong. The hardest part was unlearning the quiet, invisible patterns that had ruled my mind for years without me even realizing it. The ones that whispered, "You don't have enough. You're not ready. You have to fight for what you want." Those thoughts had been with me so long they felt like facts. But they weren't facts. They were just programs, deeply ingrained codes of scarcity that lived in my subconscious, shaping everything I believed was possible. Scarcity isn't only about money. It's a way of seeing life through a lens of limitation. It makes you think that there's not enough of anything. Not enough time, not enough opportunities, not enough love, not enough room for everyone to succeed. It disguises itself as logic, as caution, as responsibility. But underneath, it's fear. Fear that if you stop controlling, you'll lose everything. Fear that if you give too much, there won't be enough left for you. I didn't realize how much that mindset was costing me until I began to observe my own reactions. When someone around me succeeded, instead of feeling inspired, I'd feel tense. When I faced an opportunity, instead of feeling ready, I'd feel small. My body would tighten, my breath would shallow. I thought I was being realistic. In truth, I was being programmed by old beliefs that had never been mine to begin with. That was when awareness became my weapon. I started noticing every time scarcity spoke. I noticed the voice that told me to play safe, to hold back, to expect less. And instead of arguing with it, I simply watched it. I asked myself, where did this belief come from? Almost every time, the answer led me back to someone else. Parents who struggled, teachers who taught fear instead of freedom, a culture that glorified exhaustion as success. I realized that the scarcity I carried wasn't personal, it was inherited. Just because I had inherited it didn't mean I had to keep it. So I began the slow process of unlearning. Every time fear of lack appeared, I took a deep breath and reminded myself that it was just an old echo trying to protect me. I would say, "Thank you, but I don't need that anymore." Then I'd shift my focus toward gratitude. I'd find one small thing, maybe a peaceful morning, a kind word, a new idea, and I'd let that feeling expand until it filled my entire awareness. Gratitude became the antidote to scarcity because it reminded my subconscious that I already had enough. From that energy, more always came. It didn't happen overnight. The scarcity program is stubborn. It hides in habits and reactions. It feeds on comparison. I started to notice how often I measured myself against others, how often I felt like I was behind. That's the trap scarcity sets. It tricks you into believing life is a race, and that someone else's success takes away from yours. But abundance works differently. It doesn't compete. It collaborates. It expands. The more I celebrated other people's success, the more opportunities seemed to come my way. It was as if the universe was saying, "Finally, you understand. There's room for everyone." I began to experiment with new ways of thinking. Whenever scarcity whispered, "What if it doesn't work?" I'd answer, "What if it does?" When it said, "There's not enough," I'd remind myself, "There's more than I can imagine." The words felt strange at first, even fake, but I kept repeating them because I knew repetition is how the subconscious learns. I didn't just want to think differently. I wanted to feel differently. So I paired every new belief with emotion. I imagined what abundance felt like, not in my mind, but in my body, relaxed, open, confident, and something extraordinary began to happen. As I replaced old thoughts with new ones, life started mirroring my inner state. Opportunities appeared more naturally. Conversations led to breakthroughs. I'd find solutions instead of obstacles. It wasn't luck, it was alignment. I was no longer broadcasting fear, so I stopped attracting situations that matched it. That's when I finally understood what scarcity really was. Not an external condition, but an internal frequency. When you live from fear, your subconscious narrows your awareness. You stop seeing options. You miss possibilities. But when you shift into abundance, your awareness expands. You begin to notice doors that were always there but hidden by doubt. It's not that life suddenly gives you more. It's that you finally start seeing what's been available all along. The turning point came when I started practicing generosity. Not just giving money, but giving energy, time, kindness, attention. At first, it felt counterintuitive. Scarcity says, "Hold on tight." But abundance whispers, "Let it flow." And every time I gave without fear, life found a way to give back. Sometimes in unexpected forms. A new opportunity, a new connection, a sense of peace that felt better than any material gain. The act of giving became a declaration. There is always more. Little by little, my nervous system adapted to this new truth. I no longer panicked over bills or setbacks. I no longer saw other people's success as a threat. My energy began to feel lighter, calmer, more trusting. I stopped chasing and started allowing. I stopped proving and started expressing. That's when life began to respond with grace and ease. Because abundance doesn't come to those who demand it. It flows to those who are ready to receive it. Today, whenever scarcity tries to creep back in, and it still does from time to time, I recognize it immediately. I smile at it, like greeting an old friend who no longer has power over me. I remind myself that scarcity was never the truth. It was just a perspective. The real truth is that the universe is infinite. Expansion is its nature, and I am part of that same expansion. There is no shortage of ideas, of opportunities, of success, of love. There is only flow, and flow never runs out. Learning that changed everything. It changed how I think, how I feel, how I live. It redefined what success means to me. I no longer measure it by how much I accumulate, but by how open I remain to possibility. That's real abundance, not having everything, but knowing you already are everything you need to be. And once my subconscious finally believed that, life itself became abundant in ways I never imagined possible. Topic 6. The turning point. When my subconscious finally believed. There came a moment in my journey when something inside me clicked, quietly, without fireworks, without applause. But I knew it was real. It was the day my subconscious mind finally believed. Until then, I had been practicing, visualizing, repeating affirmations, meditating, and rewriting my thoughts like someone training for a marathon without knowing when the race would start. For months, it felt like I was pushing against an invisible wall. But that day, the wall dissolved. It wasn't dramatic. It was peaceful. I woke up, looked around, and realized that I no longer needed to convince myself. I already believed. Before that day, positive thinking had been a discipline, something I had to remind myself to do. Every time fear appeared, I'd replace it. Every time doubt whispered, I'd talk back. I was doing the work, but there was always a subtle tension beneath it. as if I were trying to force change instead of letting it unfold. My conscious mind wanted transformation, but my subconscious was still anchored in old memories. Memories of failure, rejection, struggle. It was as if my conscious self was saying, "We're safe now," while my subconscious kept answering, "I've heard that before." Then one morning, I noticed something different. I woke up calm, not excited, not euphoric, just calm. The kind of calm that comes from inner certainty. There was no mental chatter, no doubt trying to negotiate with my peace. I felt aligned, as if all parts of me, conscious and subconscious, were finally speaking the same language. And that language was trust. That's when I realized the truth. The subconscious doesn't believe what you say. It believes what you feel repeatedly. For months, I had been feeding it the energy of faith, gratitude, and consistency. Day after day, I trained my thoughts to follow a higher pattern. And little by little, it stopped resisting. Like a wild animal that finally learns it's safe to come closer, my subconscious began to cooperate. Everything started feeling lighter. I noticed that when challenges appeared, I no longer spiraled into fear. My old reactions didn't show up. Instead, there was a quiet voice that said, "You can handle this." I didn't have to force optimism. It was automatic. That was the sign. The subconscious had integrated the new program. Positive thinking was no longer something I practiced. It was who I had become. I remember walking down the street one afternoon, and the world looked different. The light felt softer, colors brighter. It wasn't that reality had changed. I had. My perception had shifted. The same world that once felt unpredictable and harsh now felt responsive, almost alive. I realized that what people call manifestation isn't about controlling reality. It's about aligning with it so deeply that reality starts to mirror your inner state. For the first time, I understood what true abundance felt like, not just in material form, but as an emotion, a vibration. It was a sense of fullness, of peace that didn't depend on circumstances. I wasn't waiting for a miracle anymore. I was the miracle. My mind had stopped expecting lack, and that single shift opened the floodgates for everything I had been asking for. You see, the subconscious doesn't surrender easily because its job is to protect you. It clings to the familiar, even if the familiar is painful. But when you persist with love, patience, and repetition, something changes. The subconscious learns that safety isn't found in fear, it's found in faith. It begins to trust the new frequency, and once that trust settles in, reality follows. That was my turning point. I no longer needed proof that the process worked. My peace was proof. My clarity was proof. The opportunities that began showing up were proof. But even if nothing had changed externally, I would have still felt abundant, because the real victory had already happened inside me. One morning, I received a message from someone I had admired for years, inviting me to collaborate on a project I'd only dreamed of. In the past, I would have doubted myself, thinking, "Why me?" But this time, I smiled and thought, "Of course." Not from arrogance, but from alignment. That's what happens when your subconscious finally believes. You stop questioning your worthiness. You stop negotiating with your destiny. You simply allow what matches your vibration to find you. I began noticing synchronicities everywhere. Little signs that felt like winks from the universe. A song lyric that echoed my exact thought. A stranger's words that answered a question I hadn't spoken out loud. The timing of events that fit together too perfectly to be random. That's how the universe speaks when you're finally tuned in. It's not shouting, it's whispering. And the whispers become unmistakable once your inner noise quiets down. This is the moment when spirituality becomes practical, when science meets soul, when positive thinking stops being a mental exercise and becomes a way of being. You begin to understand that the subconscious mind is not just a storage system, it's a creative engine, constantly translating your dominant emotions into physical form. If your emotional baseline is fear, it creates limitation. But if your emotional baseline is gratitude, peace, and confidence, it creates opportunities. I also noticed that I stopped rushing. For years, I was obsessed with when. When would my breakthrough come? When would success arrive? But the moment my subconscious aligned, that question disappeared. There was no when anymore. There was only now. Because abundance doesn't exist in the future, it lives in the present. And when you feel abundant now, life naturally arranges itself around that vibration. That realization brought me the kind of freedom I had always searched for. The freedom from striving, from proving, from worrying about timing. I was no longer trying to attract prosperity. I was radiating it. My energy had become the magnet. The subconscious wasn't resisting or doubting anymore. It was working with me, amplifying everything I focused on. And here's the secret that most people overlook. Once your subconscious truly believes, you don't need to control outcomes. You don't need to overthink or chase results. You live in flow. Life starts to feel like a conversation. You send out a frequency, and the universe responds in kind. You think in terms of creation, not competition. You stop asking for miracles because your entire existence becomes one. That's the point of true transformation, when your subconscious mind, once filled with fear and limitation, becomes your greatest ally. When it finally understands that abundance is safe, success is natural, and happiness is allowed. That's when positive thinking evolves into powerful knowing. Looking back, I can see that everything I went through, every doubt, every resistance, every setback, was preparing me for this moment of alignment. Because the subconscious won't believe in abundance until you've proven to yourself that you can hold peace, even in uncertainty. Once you can, the illusion of struggle falls apart. That's the turning point. Not when life gives you everything you asked for, but when you finally realize you already have everything you need to create it. That's when belief becomes your nature. That's when your subconscious stops guarding your past and starts building your future. And from that moment on, life stops being something that happens to you. It becomes something you consciously create. Topic 7. The prosperity flow. Aligning thoughts, emotions, and energy. The day I understood that prosperity isn't something you chase, but something you flow with, everything about my inner world changed. Until then, I had been thinking of abundance as a goal, something I had to reach, something I had to work toward, something that lived somewhere in the future. But the truth is, prosperity isn't a destination, it's a current. It's an energy that's always flowing, always moving, always available. The question is, are you aligned with it? For years, I was swimming against the current without realizing it. I was thinking one thing, feeling another, and acting from a completely different energy. My conscious mind would say, I want success, but my emotions would whisper, I'm afraid to fail. I'd repeat affirmations of abundance, but underneath, I felt anxious and doubtful. I was sending mixed signals to the universe and to my subconscious. And the subconscious doesn't respond to words, it responds to vibration. So it kept creating experiences that matched my energy, not my intentions. The moment I began to understand this, everything became clear. To live in prosperity, my thoughts, emotions, and energy had to move in the same direction. I couldn't think of abundance while feeling scarcity and expect alignment. I couldn't speak gratitude while vibrating fear. That internal split was what kept me stuck, exhausted, and confused. So I began to experiment. I started treating my inner world like a tuning system. Every thought was a note, every emotion a frequency, every action a vibration. If one was out of tune, the whole melody felt off. So before reacting to the world outside, I'd pause and ask, what frequency am I broadcasting right now? Sometimes it was fear, other times impatience. But instead of judging it, I'd bring awareness to it. Awareness is the first step to alignment. You can't change a frequency you refuse to acknowledge. I started practicing emotional calibration, a kind of inner check-in. When I caught myself worrying about money or outcomes, I'd take a deep breath and remind myself, I am safe, I am guided, there's enough for me. Then I'd visualize light moving through my body, dissolving tension, rebalancing my energy. It wasn't about pretending everything was fine. It was about consciously shifting from contraction to expansion. And with time, that shift became natural. That's when I discovered something incredible. Prosperity is not a reward. It's a resonance. It's what happens when your thoughts are in harmony with your emotions, and your emotions are in harmony with your energy. When that alignment happens, your subconscious no longer resists your desires. It supports them. You stop trying to make things happen and start letting them unfold. Science confirms what ancient teachings have always said. Your emotional state directly affects your electromagnetic field. When you feel gratitude, joy, and love, your heart emits a coherent frequency that synchronizes with your brainwaves. This creates what neuroscientists call heart-brain coherence, a state of flow where intuition heightens, creativity expands, and your subconscious becomes receptive to new possibilities. Spiritually, it's when your vibration matches abundance. I began noticing the signs of this alignment in small ways first. Conversations that used to drain me now felt easier. Situations that once triggered anxiety no longer did. People started responding differently, not because they changed, but because my energy had. I realized I wasn't attracting prosperity. I was finally allowing it. The flow had always been there. I was just learning how to swim with it instead of against it. Alignment became my daily practice. When I felt doubt creeping in, I didn't fight it. I shifted it. I'd pause and ask, what's the higher perspective here? When I felt impatient about my goals, I'd remind myself, everything has perfect timing when I'm aligned. I started to treat my emotions not as obstacles, but as indicators, feedback from the subconscious showing me whether I was in or out of flow. I also began to understand that alignment isn't about being positive all the time. It's about being truthful. If I was feeling resistance, I'd sit with it and ask what it wanted to teach me. Every emotion has a message. Fear often pointed to a place where I wasn't trusting. Guilt showed me where I wasn't forgiving myself. Impatience revealed where I was trying to control. The more I listened, the faster those emotions transformed. When energy is acknowledged, it moves. When it's ignored, it stagnates. There was a moment when I truly felt what alignment meant. I was walking home one evening, thinking about all the years I'd struggled, and instead of feeling regret, I felt gratitude. I realized that everything I'd gone through, every failure, every detour, had prepared me to understand flow. That single thought filled my entire body with warmth. My heart felt open, my breath deepened, and in that instant, I could sense the energy of abundance moving through me like a river. It wasn't something outside of me. It was me. From that day forward, my life started to reflect that inner harmony. Ideas came effortlessly. People arrived at the perfect time. Even the challenges felt lighter, as if they carried hidden blessings within them. I stopped pushing and started receiving. The more I trusted, the more life flowed in my favor. That's when I finally understood that prosperity is never about what you have. It's about how you feel while you have it. You can have money and still live in scarcity. You can have goals and still live in fear. True prosperity is emotional freedom. The knowing that no matter what happens, you are connected to an infinite source that never runs dry. Once you align your thoughts, emotions, and energy with that truth, life reorganizes itself to match your vibration. When your thoughts affirm abundance, your emotions celebrate it, and your energy embodies it, your subconscious mind finally understands. This is home. And from that place of coherence, prosperity stops being a pursuit and becomes a state of being. That's the prosperity flow. Not a chase for more, but a dance with what already is. A space where your mind trusts, your heart expands, and your energy radiates so powerfully that the universe can't help but respond. It's the art of living in alignment with the frequency of your own infinite potential. And once you feel that flow, you never want to live any other way again. Topic 8. Manifesting with ease. How I learned to let life work for me. For most of my life, I believed success came only through hard work, through struggle, effort, and control. I was raised to think that if you wanted something, you had to chase it, fight for it, earn it through sacrifice. So even after I began reprogramming my subconscious mind, I carried that same belief into manifestation. I thought I had to force the universe to deliver what I wanted, by visualizing harder, affirming louder, working longer. But the harder I tried, the further my desires seemed to drift. It took me years to realize that manifestation isn't about control. It's about cooperation. It's not about making life work the way you want. It's about letting life work with you. Manifestation doesn't respond to force. It responds to frequency, and frequency comes from ease. The shift began when I got tired of chasing. I remember one night, sitting at my desk, exhausted from trying to align perfectly with every technique I'd learned. Scripting, visualization, affirmations, quantum jumping, you name it. I was doing everything right, yet something felt wrong. My body was tense, my mind restless. I asked myself a simple question. If manifestation is supposed to be natural, why does it feel like a battle? That question cracked something open in me. I realized that real manifestation wasn't about doing more. It was about being more aligned. It wasn't about convincing the universe. It was about trusting it. It wasn't about repeating affirmations until I believed them. It was about feeling like I already was who I wanted to be. So I stopped chasing. I stopped trying to get things and started asking, who am I being right now? That question changed everything, because the universe doesn't give you what you want. It mirrors who you are. When I was acting from lack, I kept attracting more situations that confirmed lack. When I began feeling abundant, safe, and complete right where I was, life started matching that energy. Opportunities arrived without struggle. People appeared with perfect timing. What once felt impossible began unfolding naturally. I learned that the subconscious mind doesn't need pressure. It needs permission. It doesn't respond to fear-based urgency. It opens to relaxed certainty. Every time I tried to control outcomes, I was sending my subconscious the message that I didn't trust the process. But when I released control and trusted that everything was already working out, my mind softened, my energy expanded, and suddenly, the flow returned. It reminded me of something simple yet profound. The same intelligence that makes the sun rise and the ocean move also guides my path. If the universe can coordinate galaxies, surely it can handle the details of my life. My only job was to align with that intelligence, to flow with it, not fight it. From that moment on, manifestation became a state of allowing. I replaced pressure with play. I replaced deadlines with trust. Instead of asking, when will it happen? I started saying, I know it's already unfolding in perfect timing. I began to appreciate where I was while still being open to more. Gratitude became my bridge between the present and the future. Science supports this too. When you relax and feel safe, your brain shifts from survival mode into creation mode. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for imagination and problem-solving, activates. Your nervous system releases tension. You become more intuitive, creative, receptive. That's when inspiration flows. That's when synchronicities occur. Ease is not laziness. It's the optimal state for manifestation. I began to notice something extraordinary. When I stopped trying to control, the universe began to surprise me. Things I thought I needed to chase came to me. Connections I'd been waiting for appeared effortlessly. Projects that once felt stuck started moving forward again. I wasn't attracting in the traditional sense. I was receiving. The difference was subtle but powerful. Attraction comes from effort. Receiving comes from alignment. One morning during meditation, I had a realization that felt like a gentle whisper from somewhere deep inside. You don't manifest what you deserve. You manifest what you allow. That sentence changed the way I lived. Because for years, I had believed I had to earn abundance. Now, I understood that abundance isn't earned. It's allowed. It's the natural flow of life when you stop resisting it with doubt, fear, or impatience. Letting life work for me didn't mean I stopped taking action. It meant I started taking inspired action. Action that felt joyful, exciting, and guided, not forced or desperate. I stopped doing things from fear of missing out and started doing them from the energy of alignment. When something felt right, I moved. When something felt heavy, I paused. My intuition became my new compass. And with time, I realized that intuition is simply the voice of a subconscious that finally feels safe enough to lead. The more I practiced this surrender, the more magical life became. I'd think of someone and they'd call. I'd release a desire, and an opportunity would appear within days. I'd visualize success without attachment, and suddenly, I'd find myself living what I had imagined months before. It wasn't luck, it was flow. Because here's the paradox. The less you try to control manifestation, the more naturally it happens. When your subconscious fully trusts that you're supported, it stops creating obstacles. Your energy becomes coherent, your emotions stabilize, your vibration rises, and the universe, responding to that new signal, begins to deliver with speed and precision. Now, when I set intentions, I do it from a place of ease. I speak them once, feel them deeply, and then release them, like planting a seed and trusting that it will grow. I don't dig it up every day to check if it's sprouting. I nurture it with faith, with gratitude, with calm expectation. That's the real secret. Manifestation isn't about effort. It's about emotional alignment and spiritual trust. Today, I no longer see life as something I have to control. I see it as something I collaborate with. When things don't go as planned, I don't panic. I pause. I remind myself that every delay has a divine rhythm. Every detour hides a redirection. And most of all, I remind myself that the universe doesn't need my stress. It needs my surrender. That's how I learned to manifest with ease. Not by pushing harder, but by relaxing deeper. Not by asking, when will it come, but by knowing it's already on its way. Once you reach that level of faith, not blind faith, but embodied faith, you realize that life has been waiting all along for you to stop fighting and start flowing. And from that point forward, manifestation becomes effortless, not because life gets easier, but because you finally do. Topic 9. Living in the frequency of gratitude and expansion. There was a point in my journey when I stopped asking, what do I need to do next? And began asking, how can I feel grateful now? That single shift changed everything. It sounds simple, but gratitude is not just a nice emotion. It's a frequency, a vibration that reprograms the subconscious faster than almost anything else. It's the energy of enoughness, the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. Gratitude is what transforms the ordinary into the miraculous. Before I understood that, I used to wake up already chasing goals, deadlines, validation, numbers, proof that I was moving forward. Even when things went well, I felt restless, always reaching for the next thing. That constant striving made my subconscious believe that happiness lived somewhere in the future. But the truth is, the subconscious only knows the present moment. If you can't feel abundance now, it will never believe abundance is possible later. So I began training myself to live in the frequency of gratitude. Every morning before I checked my phone, before I opened my laptop, before the noise of the day could enter, I'd sit in silence and say, thank you. Sometimes I didn't even know what I was thanking life for. I just knew that gratitude itself was a creative force. The moment I said it, I could feel my energy change. My body relaxed, my breathing slowed, and a soft warmth began to fill me. It was like tuning an instrument. Gratitude tuned me back into harmony with abundance. At first, it was a mental exercise. I had to remind myself to find things to be grateful for. A cup of coffee, a quiet morning, a lesson learned. But over time, it became instinctive. My subconscious started scanning for reasons to feel thankful. It stopped fixating on problems and began noticing blessings. That's when I realized something profound. Your brain becomes what you train it to look for. When you teach it gratitude, it starts finding evidence of abundance everywhere. Science supports this truth. Neuroscientists have found that gratitude activates the brain's reward system, releasing dopamine and serotonin, the chemicals of joy and motivation. It also strengthens neural pathways associated with optimism and reduces the ones tied to fear and anxiety. Spiritually, gratitude raises your vibration, creating coherence between your heart and mind. In both science and spirit, gratitude literally rewires your energy field for prosperity. And then, the miracles began to multiply. Little things at first, unexpected compliments, sudden clarity, moments of synchronicity. Then bigger things, new opportunities, chance meetings, outcomes that unfolded so perfectly they felt orchestrated. Gratitude, I learned, doesn't just make you happier, it magnifies whatever you focus on. The more grateful I felt, the more reasons life gave me to feel that way. But the real power of gratitude isn't in what it attracts, it's in what it expands. When you live in a state of appreciation, your energy expands beyond fear. Scarcity shrinks, abundance stretches. Gratitude dissolves resistance because it tells your subconscious, we're safe now. And when the subconscious feels safe, it opens the floodgates to creativity, opportunity, and flow. There was a moment when this truth became more than theory for me. I was walking one afternoon, thinking about how far I still wanted to go, and I felt that familiar sense of pressure rising. My mind was racing through goals and to-do lists. Then, almost instinctively, I stopped, closed my eyes, and whispered, "Thank you for everything I already have." In that instant, something in me shifted. I felt peace wash over me, deep and quiet. My shoulders relaxed, my heart expanded. The world around me looked softer, brighter. That was the frequency of gratitude, the space where striving turns into receiving. From that day on, I practiced gratitude not as a habit, but as a state of consciousness. It became my anchor, my grounding energy. When things went well, I said thank you. When they didn't, I said thank you too. Not out of blind optimism, but out of trust that every challenge carried hidden wisdom. Gratitude helped me release control because it reminded me that life was already working in my favor, even when I couldn't see how. Over time, that energy of appreciation naturally evolved into something even bigger: expansion. Gratitude opened my heart. Expansion opened my vision. When I lived in gratitude, I wasn't just thankful for what I had. I began to expect more good to come. Not from greed, but from faith. Gratitude says, I love what is. Expansion says, and I'm ready for more. Together they form the perfect frequency for manifestation. Living in that vibration, I noticed my confidence grow effortlessly. I no longer needed external validation to feel enough. I didn't measure progress by how much I had achieved, but by how much joy I could hold in a single moment. The more grateful I felt, the more capable I became of receiving greater blessings without fear. Gratitude strengthened my foundation. Expansion built the house on top of it. Sometimes people think gratitude means settling for less, but it's the opposite. True gratitude doesn't limit you, it multiplies you. It expands your capacity to receive. It makes your energy magnetic. You begin to realize that life is not a series of random events, but a mirror reflecting the energy you radiate. When you radiate gratitude, you magnetize abundance. Now gratitude is woven into everything I do. I infuse it into my work, my relationships, my thoughts. I use it to start the day, to end the day, and to reset in between. Whenever I feel myself slipping into worry, I pause and whisper, "Thank you." It brings me back instantly. Back to flow, back to faith, back to truth. Because gratitude is the language of expansion. It tells the universe, I see what you've given me, and I'm ready to receive more. It's the emotional signature of prosperity: calm, open, and trusting. You don't have to force gratitude, you simply allow it. You breathe it, you feel it, until it becomes who you are. And that's when life begins to mirror that frequency, not with random luck, but with divine precision. Gratitude aligns you with the rhythm of expansion itself. It keeps your energy open, your heart receptive, your mind clear. It transforms waiting into appreciation, struggle into surrender, goals into gratitude for the unfolding journey. Today, I don't chase abundance anymore. I live inside it, through gratitude. I don't measure prosperity by numbers or achievements, but by the depth of peace and joy I can hold in the present moment. Because when you truly live in gratitude, you stop reaching for more and realize that you are the more. And that realization, that expansion of awareness, that peace of being, is the real definition of prosperity. Topic 10. The new reality: living fully reprogrammed for success and prosperity. There comes a moment in every transformation when the new reality stops feeling like a dream and starts feeling like home. It's not a sudden explosion of change. It's a gentle realization that you've crossed the invisible bridge between who you were and who you've become. That's where I found myself, standing in a life that once felt impossible, now feeling effortless, natural, inevitable. My subconscious mind had been rewired, and everything around me began to reflect that new code. The reprogramming didn't happen overnight. It wasn't a single meditation, a perfect affirmation, or a lucky break. It was the accumulation of small, consistent choices. The quiet moments when I chose belief over fear, gratitude over scarcity, trust over control. Day by day, those choices reshaped my inner landscape. They softened resistance, rewrote old stories, and replaced survival with creation. And then one morning, I realized that I wasn't trying to become successful anymore. I was being successful, not because of what I had, but because of how I felt. That's the beauty of living fully reprogrammed. You stop chasing life, and life starts meeting you halfway. Your mind no longer wakes up searching for problems to solve. It wakes up ready to create, to expand, to express. You stop reacting to the world and start co-creating with it. Every situation, even the challenging ones, becomes part of your evolution. You don't see obstacles as blockages anymore. You see them as mirrors, reflecting what still needs alignment. When your subconscious finally believes in abundance, your external world reorganizes itself with precision. The people around you begin to shift. Some drift away because they no longer match your frequency. Others appear out of nowhere. New allies, opportunities, conversations that feel guided by something higher. You start meeting life on a new frequency, one that feels lighter, more aligned, more deliberate. And what's interesting is that success, the kind you used to struggle for, stops being something you pursue and becomes something you radiate. You don't try to convince others of your worth. Your energy does it for you. You walk differently. You speak differently. There's a calm confidence that doesn't need to prove anything because it already knows. You understand that prosperity isn't the result of external achievement. It's the reflection of internal coherence. I began noticing it everywhere. I'd wake up feeling peaceful for no reason. I'd receive unexpected messages from people I hadn't heard from in years, offering opportunities or expressing gratitude. The timing of events became so harmonious that I stopped doubting the process entirely. I realized that I had entered what I now call the prosperity field, a state where your thoughts, emotions, and energy move as one unified current. In that state, manifestation becomes effortless because your vibration and your vision are finally the same. Science would describe it as neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to solidify new pathways through repetition and emotion. Spirit would call it faith made real. I call it alignment. The conscious mind sets the direction. The subconscious builds the bridge. And once that bridge is complete, you no longer have to walk by faith, you live by it. I used to think success was about getting ahead. Now I understand it's about tuning in, aligning so deeply with who you really are that your outer world can't help but reflect it. That's what happens when the subconscious mind stops living in the past and starts operating from your potential. You become the creator, not the survivor. You start designing your life from clarity, not from fear. And what's even more powerful is the peace that comes with it. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop waiting for the future to save you. You start feeling complete now. And that feeling of wholeness is what magnetizes everything else you desire. When you are whole, abundance flows naturally. Prosperity stops being a goal and becomes a mirror of your consciousness. This is the new reality. A reality where positive thinking isn't a technique, but a lifestyle. Where gratitude isn't an exercise, but your default vibration. Where success isn't measured by status, but by alignment. You still work, still dream, still grow, but you do it from peace, not pressure. You act from inspiration, not desperation. You follow your joy, not your fear. That's what it means to be fully reprogrammed. Your subconscious and your spirit finally walk in the same direction. There's a quote I once heard that stuck with me. You don't rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your beliefs. And it's true. The outer world will always adjust itself to match your inner world. When your beliefs are small, your life feels tight. When your beliefs expand, your reality expands with them. That's why reprogramming the subconscious mind is the most powerful work you can ever do, because it changes everything else without force. Now, when I look back at the person I used to be, anxious, striving, always searching, I don't feel regret. I feel compassion. That version of me was trying to survive with the tools it had. But this new version of me doesn't survive anymore. It creates, it flows, it trusts, and it knows that prosperity isn't luck. It's the natural outcome of alignment. So if you're still somewhere in that in-between space, the space where you're doing the work, repeating the affirmations, meditating through doubt, don't give up. You're not failing. You're reprogramming. Every thought, every feeling, every act of faith is building the new neural architecture for your future. The shift might be invisible right now, but it's happening. One day, you'll wake up like I did, not with a miracle from the sky, but with a calm knowing that the miracle has already happened inside you. Because when your subconscious mind finally believes, the universe doesn't need to be convinced. It simply responds. If this message resonated with you, if you felt something awaken inside as you listened, then don't let this energy stop here. Keep feeding your subconscious with content that elevates your vibration, expands your thinking, and reminds you of who you really are. Subscribe to the Success and Prosperity Code channel so together we can keep reprogramming the mind for abundance, success, and peace. Like this video if it spoke to your soul. Leave a comment below and share your own breakthrough. Your story might be the light someone else needs. and share this video with someone who's ready to step out of survival and into creation. Because prosperity isn't reserved for a few. It's coded within you. You just have to remember the truth. You are not a victim of your mind. You are the programmer of your reality. And when you live from that awareness, success and prosperity stop being goals. They become your natural way of life.